Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor-Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. This episode is part of my Consultants Corner category that digs into the grant consultancy sector. You find the category with more episodes on this topic on my platform, thegrant.eu, under Podcast Universe. The relationship between the grants consultant and the client is something that I have insisted shedding light on since I started this podcast. The grants consultancy sector is a sector that is viewed by many with a weird kind of skepticism and reluctance that you don't find in other consultancy areas such as tax or management. Ana-Marija Špicnagel is a Croatian EU grants consultant within the agro field. She's the director and owner of IPS Consulting that has been running since 2013. Not only is she a fantastic communicator on LinkedIn, she also has something at heart. Some time ago, she made a post with the captivating angle of when is it time to fire your client? Excellent! I had to have her on the show. So here it is. I invited her in and we had a wonderful conversation about the client-consultant relationship in this grant sector, the specificities of supporting the agro business on funding, and how she works as a consultant for the inspiration for all of you consultants out there. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Now, today will be I can almost already now promise it's going to be a very nice conversation. We're going to have a conversation about bioeconomy. We're going to have a conversation about relationship between consultants and clients. And we're going to have a talk about how conditions are for Croatian independent consultants now. Anna, welcome. Sorry, Ana-Marija, yes, because I just been calling you Anna before we started the conversation on the recording. So, Ana-Marija, welcome to The Grant. Sure. And I'm going to motivate that in a second. But first, I want you to share with me and the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, actually, I'm a consultant and I work with consultancy and EU funding programs, especially in the field of agriculture and food processing. And the specialty is related to the implementation of different innovations and technologies in agriculture and the development of business planning aspect in agricultural sector. So that's the core business. I actually have a company in Croatia and we are present on the market, let's say, over 10 years. Now with a very nice team of experts. And we work with both investment projects, like investment with farmers, and on the other side, research projects such as Horizon and Erasmus+. So that's in short.
Square root is agriculture.
Yes, yeah. I'm an agronomist, and we as a company strongly believe that agriculture is one of the most essential elements for business and for the world. So that's why we wanted to put the real emphasis and key focus on this sector.
Primary sector, and of course it's very important for us all because they make sure we have something to eat.
That's true. So actually in Europe, we have around 9 million farmers who are producing food for over 440 million Europeans. And we need to eat at least 2 or 3 times per day, right? So I say always, whenever we put food on the table, we should remember that there was a farmer who was producing this food.
Yeah. And now I'm going to motivate a little bit about why you are here. So why you are in the virtual podcast studio now. You are talented when it comes to making nice LinkedIn posts. You're not only talented in what you write, but also talented in the photos that you upload together with the post. So they stand out in my feed. They always stand out, one way or the other. And one thing that makes it stand out is the photos from gardens or from food or from anything agricultural related. It was what drew my curiosity in the beginning, because you only put your post in Croatian. But because I grew up in the countryside myself in Denmark, I've been working in a flower gardening for more than 20 years. I have a certain sympathy for that. Like anything garden or growing your own vegetables or this corner. So you're the one of the only LinkedIn contests where I translate your text to understand what's going on, because I don't speak Croatian. It's quite rusty. And it's also why I reached out eventually. I'm just going to give it a shot because she's so good. She's so good in communicating, so I need to get this one on the show, because what made the hook was, okay, that's it. I'm gonna write it. That was your post on. You made a post on the relationship between the consulting company and the client, and not just a regular, but it was a post focus saying that, look, with the discourse, should you fire your consultant? Should you fire your client?
Yeah.
Or in other words, zooming in on the fact of something that has so many layers when you're a grants consultant, so you run after the money, but sometimes you work for shitty clients. So sometimes, how should you deal with that? Do you close your eyes and bite your lip and take everything, or no? We will talk about this, your own discourse about this. So this is why you're in. But you see, because of all this with the agriculture, and David said, this is going to be a fantastic conversation. So we will also talk about bioeconomy. Now, and this is also why this rundown. Now out there, you have to be. This conversation is going to be a conversation that's going to be a little bit in some directions, but I have actually tried to make a nice rundown here, so we sort of follow the track. So the hook is, of course, what I just said.
Hello, I'm Chiara Ligori, and I'm so happy that I've joined this networking event. I invite you all to listen to the Grand Podcast.
Now, short fly-in from your side. So I just made a long speak here, but can you put a few words on what I've just said in relation to how you like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for following the posts. The LinkedIn was quite a challenge for me, like 6 or 8 months ago. And then I really went into a deep research to see how it works and how it can actually bring the added value to the stakeholders, to the consumers of this kind of materials. And you mentioned something very interesting, and that's that the LinkedIn post was interesting, but also the images were interesting. And I think we, as a visual people, actually we need to take it into account when we are also delivering the information and we are communicating towards the others. Maybe we will also reach this topic a bit later in this podcast. But what I really wanted to maybe mention concerning the relationship between the consultants and the clients, I think the real title of this was whether you should divorce your client and at what stage. Because
correct.
Yeah, because I'm working actually in a consultancy world for the last 13 years, and over this course of time, I could hear all sorts of nice stories of collaboration, but also a very horror side of this job, in terms that the clients were not satisfied, or the consultants also were not satisfied with this collaboration. And to be honest, I'm too long in this work that we should try to wrap it up to make it all very super nice and super pink glasses, and that's why I decided to speak about it openly. If we want things to be changed, to be improved, I think we need to also open up all the, let's say, challenges that we are facing nowadays. If we are talking about these kind of, let's say, weird situations in which clients ended up, it really goes from the perspective that the consultants were really not from that field, so they could not provide some general information, up to the fact that they are, for example, only preparing the project and then leaving the clients in the execution phase alone. So it's all sorts of the problems. And I was just honestly asking people when it's enough, when it's really the moment where you should stop the collaboration. Because my personal opinion is that you should always, regardless of the job that you do, that you should always bring some kind of an added value in the collaboration. And if it's not happening, then maybe it's a divorce time.
Now it's actually quite down the alley of I have many discourses of this podcast. My discourse in relation to the consultancy funding. I've been there myself, so I have an opinion about it. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure when I started up this podcast was to open up this world for consultants to share not only how they work, but also conversations like this. And I've been having some quite rough conversations or heart-to-heart conversations with some consultants over the years when I've been doing this, to share how they work, the work stress, especially stress and burnouts. That's something that I've been focusing a lot on. But also the way you behave as a company towards your clients, and also clients behaving towards us. Because it's not a sector that is, as I say, it doesn't have the same respect as tax consultants or management consultants, or it's for some reason it's not viewed upon very favorably and that's universal. That's across all over Europe. I've been having shitty people talking to me from Denmark, from Norway, from Germany, from Spain, from Portugal, and that is something that I insist on shedding light on. So I love that we're going to have such a conversation today about this.
Yeah, I think it's the only logical way forward. And also I really like that you mentioned that it's both sides. You can have a very challenging situation on the side of the client or on the side of the consultant. In both cases, we need to find the solution, but it's also about this kind of, let's say, symbiosis, because if you are coming to me for an advice, then you should also kind of, let's say, respect the previous knowledge and experience and the level of also kind of mindset that I want to really help you in solving your problem, whether it's some administration or it's some technical agronomic point of view.
And clients, you've been doing this for 13 years. Have you distilled your clients? Have you sort of made your net group of clients that you stick to?
So
you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
You based on energy, based on how they perceive you as a service, and so on and so forth.
No, I understand what you mean. Maybe just a very brief introduction. So
yes, please.
We started a consultancy company back in 2013, and the moment when Croatia entered the European Union. And at that point, we wanted to consult farmers in Croatia, and that they pay us the service of preparing some paperwork for EU funding. Till then, there was no EU funding. And farmers are also a very hardworking people who like to do a lot of things on their own also, and they like to pay for the materials, for goods, but for services, sometimes it's very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point of me being a young consultant, a female consultant, a consultant for services, it was very challenging, let's say, to enter the sector. But I could see, for example, in 2013, most of my clients were young farmers who wanted to kind of, let's say, see if there is really a potential with the EU funding and how it goes. So they were more, let's say, into the accepting the risk of, let's say, working with consultants and with EU fundings. And with each and every next call, there were older and older clients. We started with 30 years old farmers, then 35, 40, 50, 60 years old. And over the period of time, actually, majority, I would say 95% of my clients always came for an advice and actually listened for an advice. So, which is a very nice situation. So I didn't have a lot of these kind of problems, but still you have some kind of, let's say, challenging situations, or the clients that are really trying to make some kind of an extra difficulties or steps in the process. And because of that, we also distilled, let's say, the network of clients when we work. And for me, that's also perfectly fine, because it's normal that I may not be suitable for each and every client, and vice versa. So not each client is our client, what they say. But it's very important, I think, to listen to the intuition. It's not a scientific answer, but I think that the intuition sometimes really helps us in better understanding whether this kind of collaboration could work. And that's why I maybe sometimes make correlation between the marriage and this kind of business cooperation, because when you start a project, it's something that will last for example, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And you have to have a mutual understanding, good communication, in order to make it really work and to get to the results of the project without financial constraints or financial penalties. And I always say without a lot of gray hair at the end of the process.
I think this is a very peculiar sector. But of course, as agriculture, you also have some of them larger, almost like agricultural industries. Do you have that phenomenon also in Croatia?
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the majority of the agricultural sector in Europe is based also on the small farmers, but then the big companies are also taking a lot of land to be cultivated for production, and it's the same in Croatia.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm just sitting and stepping a little bit into it. So my best guess is that this is a sector where it might be a little rough to get started, but it's a sector where mouth to mouth runs, which is probably why you started to get more and more clients, also elder. So this one, she's good. So you can rely on her and so on. So when it's very skeptical sector about bureaucracy, about anything, especially Brussels. They like the money that comes for the support and so on, but they hate the bureaucracy and they don't like whatever measures or regulations that comes from Brussels. also it's very often it's a sector that is very focused on, but I take care of my land and that's it. I just want the money for what I do. So so you need to talk that language to get them. Yeah,
Yes.
you
Yes.
need to step into them like this, understanding a lot their perception. That's you need to do that with whatever you do, but it's quite peculiar.
Yeah, it's a bit different maybe from other sectors. And when we are talking about a farmer, so maybe we could say that, for example, in 19th century, a farmer was 90% of his time doing farming and only 10% other things on the farm, including the administration. Nowadays, we could say that at least 45% of their time is spent on administration. So from that point, you have to also understand their position, because they have to be at the same time the driver of the tractor, the expert for the digitalization in agriculture, the guy who follows the weather, the all sorts of the things. So from that point, it's a bit challenging for them. But it's also kind of, let's say, stakeholder group, which is very down to earth. And you need to have a user-friendly language. It's all the complex procedures, all the complex terminology needs to be translated into simple manner, because when they feel that it's of course, the same is with us and with any other sector. If you understand what is happening, then you are more open to participate in these kind of processes. If I don't understand what my hairdresser will do to me, I will be very skeptical and stressed about it. And if I know the process, then it's much easier. So I think that it's the same here. So from that point, it's very important to communicate clearly and to use normal words. Sometimes we just want to be very or look very smart, so we use very posh words, but actually
we get to that in a second. We get to the translation in a second. That's also one of my key discourses. Now, if we just I just want to push a little bit on the divorce, bad contracts, clients. So the issue, I don't think people. So there are some peculiarities with the sector, right? But humans are humans, right? So you have the ones that are kind and respectful, and then you have the ones that just expect you to do. They try to negotiate an absolute shitty price for you as a company, and they make you work, try to make you work more, or there's super bad energy on the exchange of what you need, and so on and so forth. Now, that's a divorce.
Yeah, there is a saying: either you learn or you earn. So, but in each case, you have to make, let's say, at some point, a decision whether you continue to work together or not. What is really important, I think, is to know that the clients also have a huge amount that need to invest a huge amount of energy if they want the whole thing to be working properly. And this kind of mutual communication that goes in both directions, not only during one meeting, but during for example, 2 or 3 years that we are running the project. And if this communication is not happening, then sooner or later we will reach some kind of financial penalties, or we will not get to the project outcomes. And when you have on the other side the ministries, the paying agencies, the European Commission, you need to make sure that everything is also very transparent and that everyone understands the whole process. So, for example, in that perspective, on the first meeting already, before we decide to whether we work together or not, we automatically inform the client what is the principle on which we work. We inform him about our concept, about our methodologies, and we see whether we are a good match or not. If not, no hard feelings. But I just want to make sure that all of my energy goes to the clients that really are interested in meeting their higher potential.
But Anna, you can't do that. You cannot pick that up by the first meeting. It's when things get rough. It's when you sit. You have I don't know which is it life proposals you're writing for them, or what kind of proposals are they?
It's so on the national level, it's actually the rural development program. So strategic plan.
And the EU side.
And the EU side is Horizon, and it's Erasmus Plus project.
Excuse me, but Horizon Europe, if you sit, that's exact. That's not different from agriculture and whatever I've been dealing with. You can have a nice conversation, you get them on board, we roll and so on, and then things starts to go sideways, and that's because it's not difficult to say, okay, that's an idiot, and I don't think we will sign the contract. But the problem is when you are 3 months into the work and it's just unreasonable, you can just see that it's absolutely shitty to work with. You still have a month left. Do you then skip? Yeah, that's the hard question, Anna, because that's
a hard question. But that's life. That's actually life.
Have you done that?
I had it a couple of times, actually, these kind of situations. And first of all,
well done.
I will get back to the intuition, because I really think when I didn't listen to intuition, later intuition taught me that I should listen it.
Nice.
That's for sure. But you know what? There is also a lot of things that you can do. That's true. Horizon projects are a bit different because, for example, we have now running a project where we have 37 partners from 17 countries on board. And of course, there are different elements that are happening at the same time, but with the good coordination, with a lot of, let's say, continuous communication between different partners, you can solve a lot of problems. Even if you see that someone is not working to the point that is, let's say, good or that is expected, you still have then time to do the work or distribute the work over the different partners and so on. I think in that element, the coordinator must be very strong personality and also someone who also walk the talk person, who can then make really like a cut if necessary. Did you have that kind of situation?
You know what? I've been working together with many clients who were absolutely shitty.
You should come to work in Croatia. We don't have this kind of situation.
It's universal, and I'm not. No, you know what? I was working for P&O, large company, right? So I had managers expecting KPIs and so on. So I was there. I just had to happen because we were running with the success fees, and our down fee was not hourly rate, right? It was a down fee related to submitting the proposal. So it's simply absolutely no go not to fulfill the job. No one would have supported me, no matter how shitty the client would have been.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about having your own company. Yeah, you do the calls. This is a company with 400 employees, right? Country managers and all kinds of that.
That's true. But I would say that the consultancy work, although it seems very nice, very easygoing, I think it's a very hardworking thing and job, where you need to be at the same time, multiple people in one person. You need to be a problem solver, a clarity provider, a knowledge broker, everything in single person, and still stay, let's say, peaceful when things go running in the wrong direction. So from that point, I mean, we are a small company. We have 10 people, and sometimes
that's nice, though. Well done.
It's it's I think a good size. Let's say it's still manageable for me, and also
Yep.
not to have so much stress that that I go to the burnout phase or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So from that point, I think it's good, but it's challenging, because you want to deliver the good value. Sometimes it happens that we really say to the clients, we don't want to work with you
Mm-hmm.
because we see that you cannot meet the criteria. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started to do the LinkedIn or to do a bit more of marketing, because I saw that there was a lot of different things happening on the market from the consultant's point of view, and there was a lot of, let's say, how to say, consultants that are not up to the task.
Yeah.
And the clients had really some horror stories. And then I said,
Yeah.
now is the moment, because I know that I'm really working from the point that I really want to deliver them the added value to make their project work. And if I don't see it's happening, then I will stop the collaboration immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even here for the advance payment. I really want that their project works, and there is not a lot of companies like that. So from that point, I said, okay, this should be mentioned to the world, and then who sees the values will work with us.
And which business model do you run after? Do you run with down fees or do you run with success fees? So how do you?
We are always doing actually a risk. How to say, dividing the risk. So part of the payment is done in the beginning or during the preparation phase, and then the second part is actually the success fee.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it's also very important to mention that now there is a lot of consultants, young consultants that are starting up and that say, okay, there is no fee at all, we will do it for free.
That I hang them. They destroy the reputation of this. That's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
Many years ago,
mm-hmm.
when especially that there's a reason for that, but it wasn't Southern Europe. The low salary countries where suddenly consultants started to do this, come up with, we don't charge anything. It gives such a low image to the heart, to that kind of, because you just said it 5 minutes ago. The capacity and the intellectual capacity and the resource intensity. So we're not even talking juggling here. We're talking. It's so massive what you need to deal with, of balls in the air when you work with this. So the what they get from this, it's not just writing a proposal. It's guiding them on their innovation, technology development. It's connecting them with super cool partners throughout Europe that will help their business or have the potential to help the business in the future. They can, if they lose the proposal, they can take the work that's been done, scoping business model, where they can take it and lift it on into doing a commercial collaboration if they want with some of the ones that there's so much in it. But in the work,
That's true.
They look at you like an idiot. They don't respect the time to get back with feedback. You have to push things out of you. You have the ones that understand the value, and that's the good. Those are the good clients. But you have so many that what you do, that don't understand the value, which means that you struggle to squeeze a eurocent out of them, and then often they are also difficult in the collaboration. But you're the consultant, you're supposed to do it. It makes me it has made me so angry over the years the perception of the sector. And it's not only and I know some of you are listening out there, consultants that are doing this, it's not only your fault, but it plays a big role that you have people out there that literally says it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
Why should they then pay good consultants?
Yeah, but that's in the beginning I was very frustrated with it, but later on I just figured out, okay, not each and every client is my client, and if someone doesn't see a value in working with us, with our company, then okay, that's it.
Good riddance. Bad rubbish.
You know what? Because later on, when they started to work with these kind of consultants, in the beginning it was perfect because they were sent out the proposal and they didn't have to pay anything. But later, when they got all the requests for the clarification, and then the consultant didn't respond to their emails or to their phone calls anymore, for example, or their project was rejected because they didn't put all the technical documentation and this kind of stuff, then you see actually that it's something that didn't make sense from the start, because we are investing the time. Time is money. The same. If we are talking about agriculture, if you want to produce a carrot, you need all sorts of the things to produce it. The same is for the project. You need my time, you need my energy, my network, my knowledge, my experience, etc., etc. And it's something that's also costing money. So not every client is our client who doesn't see the value. Also, partially that's our problem, because why do people not see the value? Because maybe we didn't clearly indicate it. We didn't communicate it in a way that they understand it. Sometimes we think that things are, let's say, self-understandable. It's self-understandable that it's this or that, but it's not the case. I think we really need to take them for their hand, and lead them to the value that they get if they work with us and if they get this project.
Yep.
So it's also kind of, let's say, believing for them before we convince them what is good for them.
Yeah. So this is a matter of respect, matter of mutual respect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of the client understanding that when you do grants, when you apply for grants, the consultant cannot do much if there's not a strong collaboration on giving the content that the consultant, the raw material for the consultant to work with. That's grants consultants' raw material. It's information about what is this technology,
Yes.
the information to pick their brain. And so in that understanding, it's respect. It's say, I have to do this. This person cannot, I will get the most out of my money to pay for this service if I hand over what this person needs in order to do this. This is part of the deal. So this is what I need to do in order to respect this person's work to be done the utmost. If I don't give them what they need, then they can't do a proper job, and vice versa. So the consultant, respect for the client, understand their situation, understand that they are, if it's a small agricultural, small farmer, for instance, okay, they're under pressure with time, they have so many other things to do. Okay, try to be flexible around this. So if you have that nerve and energy in the relationship, it's human psychology. Yeah, then it's good.
Yes.
And that's the intuition you're talking about. That if you get that feeling in the beginning, then it's gonna be fine.
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, I would say it's not business to business; it's human to human.
Exactly.
Because we need to understand in what position the other person is, and vice versa. And for example, sometimes I was waiting for. I was doing late hours because I knew that my client was also working late hours in a stable or on the field, and that he had to put to seed before the rain and these kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, it was logical that I adjust to him. And it's the same also in Horizon projects. You have situations where that the partner is dealing with some other challenges or organizing a conference or something else that is consuming his energy, and that's why you also need to step up and let's say do the empathy thing in supporting them. But on the other side, I think it's also very important, if we see that things are not going in a proper way, that we communicate it clearly. Not just wait till the end of the project and hope it will end up somehow, but really to say openly, okay, this is not working. I'm concerned about this, and that, and what we can do about it. And sometimes it seems very weird, but in all the situations where I was facing it, I could only get a better output after these kind of honest conversations.
Yeah.
I am Vladiana. I listen to the grant and social duo. Also, I am the winner of the Grand Mag.
Yes. And now we're actually bridging into the translation. Yeah. So here you have, this is communication.
Yes.
Yeah? So the best way to get a good collaboration up and running. Now we're moving there. We're shaping it together here, right? That is what we just talked about. And there, in every single step you do as a grants consultant, is to make sure that the EU lingo is not taking over your own vocabulary. That everything you do with, because there's so many procedures, it's extremely, if you see this for the first time, I have never seen this, how a template looks, what you need to put, the words they use on what you need to describe and so on. So it's alienating you to the extent that you will never look at it again. So this is the role, and I'm sure you're absolutely wonderful in this. This is the role this is one of the most important roles, to make sure that the ones you work for, they feel absolutely comfortable with this. They can understand what's going on. So you're constantly translating what it is that is actually needed. Not try to use words as dissemination and impact as little as possible. Try to, or at least if you do say, look, this is what they call it, this is what it means. To make sure that everybody is on board. And not doing it in condescending, or do it. So say, look, I've been working with this. I'm talking for you. I've been working with this for 13 years. This is what they say. Don't worry. This is what they mean. It's sometimes a little. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's public funding. There's a huge system behind this, and some idiot in Brussels decided that it's supposed to be like this. But now we're just following this, and I'll take you through this step by step.
Yeah. Well, I would say that first of all, I have an impression that people are using posh words and very hard terminology because of two reasons. The first one is because they want to sound very smart. And the second one is because they don't know what it means. And they've heard it somewhere, and now they are just copy-pasting it.
Yep.
Each of these cases is wrong, I would say, or not meeting the requirements of the communication. But what we need to make sure is that we really understand that the communication is not a thing. It's truly everything. So if I'm not understanding what you're saying, I cannot participate in this process, in this dialogue. And sometimes it's more easy to understand. In other times, it's more difficult. If I'm trying to convince European farmers to invest, for example, in biogas installations or the development of bio-based fertilizers, or to invest in digitalization or organic farming, I need to put all the terminology that is also a research terminology, a policy maker terminology in a simple manner, because we are dealing with the farmer, or vice versa. It is not easy also for policymakers to fully understand all the technical words for the technology, or all the agronomic things and words from the farmer point of view. So in that kind of, let's say, mixture, a salad, we need the kind of people who are translators, who are trying to understand each of the points and trying to develop the language that is easy understandable for everyone in the room. So that the policymaker understands it, that the farmer understands, that the technology provider, for example, understands. And again, it's not through the push words. It's through the user-friendly format. It's through the easy communication, through the normal terminology that I always say a 10-year-old and a grandmother would also understand.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm a kind of, let's say, one-pager person. They call me one-pager lady. So from that point, whenever we have a huge amount of information, I try to put it in a single page. And trust me, it can be about the spaceship, or it can be about carrots. But at the end of the day, you can really summarize, because it's not only about collecting the data, analyzing, but really summarizing it.
Yeah. That we will also get to, because we're going to talk a little bit about how you work. But I think this is what we're talking about here, right? So it is, you need to learn your sector. Yeah, you need to learn your sector too. This is what it is. So when I started this, the young civil servant, I was got a job working as an NCP and program committee member for the Danish government. I didn't know the lingo. Yeah, but I was telling people what to do. That's what you do as an NCP, right? Then 2 years later, I got a new job working and supporting the Danish offshore renewable sector from Brussels. So offshore wind and ocean energy. I didn't know particularly much about wind energy or ocean energy, wave energy technologies. But this was a position I had for 5 years. So after 2 years, it started to be super, super up to date on what is the technology, what is the perception from the SMEs, because I talked a lot to the SMEs, I also talked to the big guys, Siemens, Vestas, and so on. But I most of them were SMEs, right? So I was running around in fairs, wind fairs in Hanover, Messe, whatever, Brussels, a big thing. No, talking to people. So what is it you do? What's the bottleneck? Understanding the lingo of the sector, understanding, how is this community? And it made me much better. I was not a grant consultant, I was a facilitator, but it made me a much better facilitator because I understood them. And so I learned them. It was important for me to understand their perception of the world. Why should we do this? And then I was the translator of how EU funding could help de-risk investment in technology. And so I put a lot of investment and intellectual capacity into how can I twist this message to make them think it's a good idea to go for funding. And it's exactly the same that you do, because you've been working with this for 13 years, so you know them to the bone. Know every single farmer in Croatia, maybe not, but but you know how they think. You know what are their problems, what do they worry about, what when it comes to technological development, what ticks them, what don't they care about, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but it's the same whether we are talking about Brussels and policymakers or farmers in Croatia. You always need to be a kind of problem solver, because if you're just selling the service, I write projects, you need me, that's not really something that will make a good business. But if I try to help you and to solve your problems through the writing of proposals, then it's something where you can see the value for yourself, for your business, and then we can make actually a really good business. So, and what you mentioned is very good, because you mentioned the fairs and the conferences and these kind of events. And whenever, what I could say from these 13 years of experience is that one day at a farm with a farmer, I can learn more than in a week from the office, because it's really you are at the point and at the heart of their work, of their working day, how they function, how they think, how they do the things. And the same is also for example, for policymakers, because I participated to the numerous conferences as a panelist or a speaker. And then you can actually better understand what they are really coping with and how you could deliver this kind of message. So getting back to the roots of the problem is important, and also getting early enough to stakeholders, especially for the Horizon projects, in order to get what their real problems are. So, for example, in the Fertimanure project, we have coordinated collecting the responses from brainstorm sessions and surveys from more than 2,000 people, stakeholders across Europe. And it was guided through different partners of the consortium, but it was guided for 4 years. We didn't wait the 4th year to present the result and then expect that people are so open about it, but we announced it. We included them in the process of making the solutions. We checked, we reviewed it with them, and then at the end of the story, we actually presented it. And the success rate or the implementation from this point of view was much higher than in other projects where it was just presented as an end result. So again, it's about continuous communication. Sorry, I like to talk a lot.
No, but it's a very nice conversation. And let's move because actually it's a fine bridge into talking a little bit about how you work. This episode is going to be part of the Consultants Corner category I have. So for others to have an idea, it's also part of what I do are that consultants, they share a little bit how they work and how they focus and so on and so forth. So we already been talking a lot about the sector. So I think we are incorporating the bioeconomy block into sort of naturally, organically into the rest of what we're talking about here. So now, philosophy and key approach. So you have 3 pillars. Yeah, that was already mentioned in our pre-talk. So 3 pillars. Can you? What are they?
Of course. Well, I told you I'm actually an agronomist, but actually I'm working more in the sector of agroeconomy. And from that point, we have been working a lot on the business planning and development of business models that are working for agro-innovations and agricultural sector. And in this sector, it's very important that it's realistic. It's also focusing on viable financial frameworks, that it makes sense at the end of the day, that it makes sense. So business planning is one thing. Another thing is communication and dissemination, which I'm very passionate about, as you could hear in the last half an hour. But it's really like, I really enjoy actually bringing this kind of knowledge and transforming the message in a user-friendly format.
Yeah, and you have talent also.
Yeah.
You have a talent. So.
Yeah.
You're
and
good.
The third thing is actually concerning the brainstorming, because I'm a kind of person that is more like a problem solver. And think outside the box. And then when someone tells that, and then I say, okay, what kind of box? There is no box at all. So let's just think openly and freely. about potential solutions and problem solving.
You
So,
know what?
mhm.
Because I've been wanting to do for a while. Again an episode about the idea development,
Mhm.
early phase idea development, because I've been doing that myself, and I have done episodes a long time ago, and I wanted to do them soon. We will do an episode of that. No, it was just a thought. Tell me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just like when we are talking about brainstorming, it's very important that you have different kinds of stakeholders involved in the process, and that none of them is actually concerned about what they will say, but that the flow of thoughts is very open, and that only then you can actually have some very good and nice ideas. And for example, when I'm coordinating the brainstorm sessions in different countries through the partners of consortium, I always tell them you need to have a one person who is writing down everything that people are saying. Even if you think it's the stupidest thing ever, stupidest statement ever, please write it down. And it has been proven in a lot of cases that exactly these kind of statements that on the first sounds weird and not relevant are actually a part of the solution. So this kind of, let's say, brainstorming is, I think, crucial for business development, for project development, and so on. And if you ask me, I'm the happiest when I have a blank paper in front of me and I make the mind map based on the brainstorming session.
Yeah. So I've done this a lot. So let's start there. So how do you attack this?
The brainstorming itself.
Yeah. So you have the strategic brainstorm. I guess that this is often around how should a proposal be shaped, how should a project look like.
Yeah, so first of all, what we consider is the call itself. I extract the basic information on the call.
Yeah.
It's always the bullet points. It's never the long sentences, just the bullet points. And then you try to actually extract. I try to extract 2 or 3 main components or words that are really prominent to this call, and then we try to shape the story around it. Of course, when you're talking about the Horizon projects or Erasmus Plus, you need to include multi-level approach, multi-actors, triple helix, all sorts of this methodology. But at the heart of the brainstorming itself, you need to think from the perspective of how it is done at this moment and what could be done from the innovation point that could help solve the problem. Sometimes these innovations are very innovative, something that's not applied yet, but sometimes innovation is also doing things in a more simple manner, doing it like it was done a long time ago, back in the days. And that is also something that then works properly in the call itself. So it's always about creating a mind map with some basic information and then covering it from different points of view, because you have to do, for example, from the technical point, from the socio or economic point of view, regulatory point of view, etc. And then you're clicking the boxes.
Yeah. So this is when I was doing this. That was a lot of it I did during Corona, right? So, and I was having a colleague on the other end of the screen. We would take a meeting with the client, typically a research organization. They would have a concept or something they wanted to do. Then we would take that concept, and then we would make the first sketch out. So we would make a sketch out of the conceptual, how it could look in a person. One thing is the technical thing they want, a technological thing they want to solve out, but you need to put it into a Horizon call context, and which is much wider. So we would sit and try to scope the work package construction. How would things be? How would the flow be? Add some ideas to how things could both, not so much the technical side, but sometimes technical side, but also on the other elements for you. So, what do you say, civic involvement, or like things where you sort of things had to play together in different corners, or end user working groups, or whatever, all kinds of concepts. And then we would present that to the client and sit with them, maybe 1, 2, 3 of the core partners, technology partners, and go through how they would perceive the concept, and then brainstorm together with them, further on. So that was sort of that was not done in one go, right? So we would it would be modular. So we would start somewhere, then there were several steps in that.
What I really like is that when we have the brainstorming sessions, we are not.
Who do you involve in that brainstorm session? Who's with you?
Well, normally when we are talking about Horizon projects, it's the coordinator. So it's the main person, the one passionate about starting the whole story. But I don't like the time restrictions, so whenever we are organizing it, I'm saying, okay, I don't know how long it will last. Please don't plan anything after our meeting, because you don't know where the flow of thoughts will lead you. And sometimes it's very time consuming, but also energy consuming. And at the end, you have a feeling that you're completely exhausted, but you're also very happy because you have something very a diamond actually in your hands. So from that point, it's challenging, but it's also very important, I think, that you don't interrupt people when they present it. For example, I always start with some general questions in order to understand what they are really passionate about and how this passion of theirs is something that we can implement in the proposal. Because if you implement something that they're passionate about, they will be even more into it and into developing this kind of proposal and making it really work, that it's accepted. So that's maybe small tips and tricks that I use.
Yeah. All right. So business planning, I guess. So that's the other part of your consultancy, right? That's not only related to funding. I guess you also use it in the funding part, because sometimes you need to present a business plan as part of the project.
That's true. We are using it on all sorts of levels, whether it's for us or for the consortium to present it to partners, or it's within the project proposal itself, where we are trying to actually analyze. So in each Horizon call, you have some kinds of pilots or demo sites or cases that you want to investigate whether they are working properly or not. So one thing is that it's working properly on the level of technology or regulation, but another thing is that whether it's really meeting the market requirements and whether the market can uptake it. So what is really necessary is that investors get the information, whether it's a green light or a red flag, let's say, whether they should invest in it or not. And that is also sometimes we get to the conclusion that some technology is a red flag. It's not working from the economic point of view. And then I had a situation where some of the partners from the consortium were saying, oh my gosh, how is it possible? How will we present it, to people, to investors, to the policymakers? And my only reaction was, this is the best possible moment where we could figure out that it's a red flag. Because we are actually saving money from investors and that they invest in something that is not working properly.
But it's rough for the client.
That's true. But on the other side, I'm thinking it really from the perspective that I'm saving his or her business from going into bankruptcy. So it's absolutely my duty that I also very transparently talk about it. And even during the presentations, if we are talking about Horizon projects, even during presentations at conferences, I always use one of the cases that is not working.
This is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Exactly. Exactly.
Who did this?
That's real life, That's life. It's not everything is pink and green. Like,
Yeah, but you have all kinds of ideas out there in all sectors. It's everywhere. That people they come up with and think it's a good idea, and have a beating heart for that. But at the end of the day, it's.
That's true. And also, what I have seen is that in the business planning, you have people who are more conservative and those who are more like liberals, I would say. I am more of
Agro hippies. You also have them in Croatia.
Of course. But I'm more a conservative type of person because I think that if you make too many assumptions, for sometimes you don't have data and you cannot get to the data. So if you make too many assumptions, you're getting to something that is not a real case anymore.
Yeah.
A theory.
I think it's gonna be like this. I hope it's gonna be like this.
Yeah. We will sell it. It's 20 euros per kilogram, and actually it's 2 euros per kilogram. So it's these kind of situations. Yeah. So internally, we are also doing a lot of brainstorming on whether our assumptions are going in a good direction, whether it's really something that could happen in the field or not. Yeah. So, yeah.
But Anna, you have been working with this for so many years, and you are even by education, by university education, you have something to. You have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of experience, and you're like a lot of miles in your legs with this. So your assessment. It's probably quite important to listen to. Also, Croatia, you know how the sector works in Croatia, you know what works with us. So.
Yeah. I mean, we are working also on the level of the whole Europe. We have done the business planning aspect and the development of business model canvases for more or less majority of the countries across Europe. Because we have a case of a farmer from the Netherlands who is doing the bio-based fertilizers development, or, for example, a carrot producer from Greece who is investigating the organic production. So it's all across Europe. And from that point, you always have to be a bit tentative and to really listen to the people from the field, the farmer or other partners from that country, to better understand what is happening in that country, in order to really, as I mentioned, be conservative. And it's better that the situation at the end is better than I expected than worse, that the client or the investor has actually a negative balance. So from that point of view, it's a lot of parameters that you have to take into account, and that you have to align in order to get to a decent, transparent result.
It's called experience.
I don't know what it is, but it's
that's
you can see it by my gray hair.
The older we get, the more we've been working with what we've been working. There are some shortcuts there. Eventually, as we move on, it's like this. Now, communication dissemination. Now, Anna, and I said it. You have talent, and this I recommend every single listener to connect with Anna. There's a link on the episode site, and you'll see what I mean. You have a talent, both in the videos you make. I don't understand Croatian, but I can see the talent in making the video. And I can see the talent in the photos. And I can see the talent in the text. You have a feeling for this. You know how to attack this. I know we've been talking. I've been doing a communication series with Casper, where we talk a lot about how to engage and how to work on social media and so on. And what you have, and we talked about this. There's Ronaldo, and there's Messi, right? And Ronaldo, he has to train a lot, and Messi, he has a given talent. And you probably, of course, you have to train it. But of course, it's obvious that you have a talent. So,
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter that I'm really passionate about what I'm working, and
Yeah.
it's not really a job. It's really something that I'm living. I have a garden at home, and I'm really trying to. Now I'm working on some.
Which you
organic
also
stuff.
use in your photos, which is very,
Yes,
very nice. It's very
yes, I
nice.
have very authentic
Feel
photos.
like stepping into that garden and picking those things and making a soup. It's very, very nice, really.
Oh, that's the authenticity part.
Yeah.
Because everyone can get the images from some stock archive, but it's about making and also now we are talking a bit about AI, because there was at some point a flood of AI images, and at first it was very nice, but then our mind said, okay, it's too much AI, it's too artificial. So even if it's not the perfect picture, I still post it, because I have a feeling that authenticity and a level of down to earth element is something people are really looking forward. Yeah, and also, let's be honest, we are living in a very fast world. So our brain is trying to search for some, let's say, interconnections to make faster decisions. And from that point of view, it's very good if we are making the formats that are attractive to people, whether it's video formats, a podcast, whether it's images. You have to make sure that it's catchy. It gets the message. And sometimes I get, for example, from the researchers, a message, yeah, but you are making the message too simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
any reason put a PowerPoint with a lot of
exactly. But
lot of
if
words.
that message gets to the client, I'm not sending the wrong message. I'm just simplifying it, and if that message will reach the client or reach the right stakeholder, then we are making the good job. Yeah.
We're not reaching the client with, listen to someone who, because researcher, you are excellent in what you do, but often communication is not your key capacity. At least on social media. And but different capacities are needed, and this is why you have someone like Ana-Marija here.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. But it's you know what? We are also maybe tackling a bit the topic of the marketing, because communication is indirect connection with marketing. And there was a very nice saying that I've heard a long time ago. So if you do something and you don't do the marketing or the communication about it, it's the same as if you are winking the girl, like with an eye, in dark. So nobody sees it. And then you don't get the feedback, the response from stakeholders. So sometimes the simplest way is the best, like my photos from my garden.
Indeed. Yeah. On that note, I think we need to slowly now. We have 2 blocks left. We have some advice, reflections, and then the toughest challenge that I always have. Now, actually, we haven't talked about. So if we move into the reflections and advice section, we haven't talked about Croatia as a young member state. Now having a socioeconomic system not being used to EU support funding schemes, so the flow, especially the agricultural sector. That's for Denmark, for instance. We've been in the EU since '72, right? Having a flow of is a huge part of supporting the agriculture sector. Denmark has been the flow from Brussels of money to the sector, and that suddenly that comes into Croatia, right? But also understanding this funding system, how this works, and so on. How now you've been doing this for 13 years, so you have survived as an independent consultant, and that's always nice to see. But how was it starting up back then?
It was challenging, I would say, but I'm a very optimistic person, you see.
No,
But actually, I had a very good opportunity to work for 6 months from Belgium, where I worked with some of the nicest consultants in the agricultural sector who were also working with EU fundings. So I could learn also from Ghent University, with whom we had some projects, and also with these kind of experienced consultants. Although all the experience that they could apply at that moment in 2013 in Belgium, it was more or less useless in Croatia because I had a completely different starting point. But for me, it was good from the perspective that I knew at least where the sector will be in a couple of years and how to deal with it and what kind of services to offer to clients. So from that point, it was very challenging. I told you that in the beginning, it was mostly younger farmers who were approaching us. And only later on, more experienced farmers decided to give us their trust. The same goes for the Horizon proposals, for example. We started with one Horizon project. Actually, it was the FP7 project. And back then. And then in the meantime, we collected more or less around 10 different Horizon and Erasmus Plus projects on which we have been working. So it always goes easy and slowly, you know. It's something that's very common for business development. It doesn't go over the night, and you just have to be very patient and very hardworking and very passionate about what you do in order to make the success, and also try to find the unique selling proposition, the real diamond in your organization that is making you different compared to others on the market.
No. Is there any, now we talked about young go-getter consultants, Croatian, offering a zero euro invoices. Now, do you have any advice to consultants in newer member states? Is there something specific you would say? Okay, you need to know your EU. You're like, oh, is there anything you want to sort of share?
Yeah, well, I would say that from the consultant point of view, it's always better that you focus on some specific area that you want to cover. You know, you cannot be the consultant for all areas that are there. And I think that's sometimes, let's say, causing also these kind of challenges and troubleshoots. And another thing is actually that the transparency is very important. You know, sometimes I have a feeling that consultants don't want to mention everything to the client because they don't want to make him worried about the whole thing, or whether he will stop working with them, or, you know, stop the proposal preparation. But in my opinion, that's completely useless and it will end up in a single street, because if we are not working with the client on this call, we will be working with him on the next call, where he will also be more prepared, and it's higher chances that he will get the call. So this kind of transparency is, I think, a crucial element to make things working, and also going on the field with clients. If it's people in the creative industry go to their places, try to see them on their spot and get the information from them. If it's a farmer, then go on the field and talk with the farmer on the field, not in the office, but on the field, so that you grab a lot of other elements and the information to make it work for him.
Yeah, it's indeed, I agree. I just started working with the hydrogen sector, and I'm like a dog in a bowling alley. with the content, right? It's complex technology, right? And I'm not an engineer, so I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos and using a lot of ChatGPT to ask it, what is it, how is it, how does it work, how does because I need to, and it's exactly this. You need to understand the people, you need to understand the sex, and I also like you have to go out there and meet them, visit them, see what it looks like, what they want to do, what is this, how does it work? It comes in there, it goes out there, it's then it does this, and you're like
yeah, and also I think asking questions, because this is a very weird situation, I must admit. Normally I'm the one who is asking a lot of questions. So this is out of my comfort zone. But actually, so for example, we were on a visit to the Dutch farmer, and we were a group of, I don't know, 20, 25 researchers. And normally the visits would be for an hour. But because of my questions, I apologize once again, it was more than 2 hours.
Yeah, there you go. All your little questions there.
Yeah. I really wanted to understand what is happening behind and what are the real reasons and what he's passionate about and how it ends up in a practical way and this kind of stuff. And sometimes people are just very worried whether their questions will sound stupid or weird or whatever. But it's the only way that we learn, that you ask questions and that you listen actively.
Okay. The other thing we have here, I don't know if do you have any insights for research, like for clients on working with consultants? Do you have anything? Don't be a jerk. Be nice.
Yeah, I think that it's very important to trust. If you decide, first of all, do your research and find a consultant that is good for you. But once you find it, trust it. Trust the process. Trust the whole procedure. You don't have to understand fully everything, but you have to be open-minded to get to that kind of proposal preparation and grant agreement. And sometimes it's a lengthy process, and has a lot of obstacles on the in the reality. But you need to trust the person that you have chosen. That's the only thing that I can.
And now we're back to where we started, right? Client-consultant relationship. So if we move into the toughest challenge, last part here, actually I put something else that I'm going to ask. So here I put what is the toughest challenge as a bioeconomy consultant in a new member state. Out with that. What is the toughest challenge with the client-consultant relationship? Now it got quiet.
Yeah, you see? I'm trying to bring an added value. I would say that the biggest challenge is that you convince them in the real value of the project before they believe it. Because even if they come with the thought, I want this project and I want to work with you, they still might not see the full potential of the project. And that's why this kind of communication, not only, for example, I will get a new stable and that's nice, but this table will provide you like 50% more revenue in the next 10 years. And because of that, you will be able to invest in other elements of your production. And that will increase the stability elements or profitability elements of your farm. You could have, for example, more easy mornings with your wife and with your kids, because there will be a robot that is doing some work, or, these kind of stuff. That's really bringing them to the point where they also see the vision that you have for their project.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. That's very tough, I would say. Yeah. And coherency, you have to be on the same level of on the same level of providing the service in the first moment, the first 5 minutes of the meeting, the same as it is for the last payment procedure. So 3 years later, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to provide a good service all the time, not only once in a while.
Yeah. And that's it.
Is it possible?
That's it. And that's, it's been such a nice conversation, and I want to have you back in, because this is a very, very nice to have you in. You're invited back, and we will talk about brainstorming. We'll talk about idea development, and I can see many things to talk about, because there's so many levels here where that's fine. That's good. I'm very happy to have dragged you into the grand sphere. Now I'm just going to land the plane before we say goodbye to the listeners. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. Hope you enjoyed this. If you like what you're hearing here, you should go to thegrand.eu. That's my platform. That's where I have all my episodes, and I have at this stage should be more than 175 podcast episodes. So if this is the first one you listen to, you're in for a treat. There's a lot there. Now, if you're a consultant and you think, oh, that's great with listening to all these advices for consultants, I have another treat for you. I have categorized my episodes. So I have a category called Consultants Corner. On Consultants Corner, you have lots of episodes about other consultants, how they work, the concepts they work with, the business models, and so on. Otherwise, lots about how to prepare proposals, how to implement projects, and so on and so on. So yeah, go in there, check it out. And while you are there, don't forget to subscribe to my email list. This is how you support an independent podcaster like me, humble, but yet persistent. If you have any sympathy with that, subscribe to the email list, because that's what helps me as a podcaster. Finally, don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn, and do go and like The Grand page on LinkedIn. This is where the flow is. This is where the fun happens. This is where I invite guests like Ana-Marija here. You can also get in. You can always reach out to me. The road to the virtual podcast studio is quite short. You reach out if you have something at heart you want to say, you want to share with the community. It's normally quite short. It's very, very rare that it doesn't end up with a conversation. So do that. No, that's that. This has been so nice, anyway. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Niels, for inviting me, and it was a real pleasure. And I hope that the listeners got at least a bit of valuable information. And if they have any kind of questions on each of the topics that we tackled, just please feel free to connect via LinkedIn, and I would be more than happy to help and support.
Yeah, by all. So as I think I mentioned earlier, also each episode has its own website. So, and it's in the episode. It's in the episode notes. If you listen on Spotify or in Apple Podcasts, there's a link there in the resume, and you can click on that, and you get to the episode site, and there you'll find there's a link to Ana-Marija's LinkedIn site. There's a link to her company. I'll see what else. Is there anything else we can put in there?
We will think about it.
There will be a link. There, I will also put a link to the Consultants Corner to the audience. And we thank you so much. Let's say goodbye to dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grand. All the Grand episodes have their own site on the Grand website. You will find the link in the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Ana-Marija's personal LinkedIn site and to IPS Consulting, that is a company. Further, there'll be a link to my Consultants Corner category with more content on grants consultancy. In next week's episode, I will have a look at how a Swedish municipality has used EU funding for their initiatives on industrial symbiosis. You can indeed look forward to that.